All right. Welcome, and we're going to call to order the electronic meeting of the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission for May 25th, 2021. Mr. Moore, would you do the roll call vote, please?
I believe, Mr. Miller, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the chair would need to read the statement, opening statement.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right. Ms. Allen,
have
do you
that,
have
Ms.
that?
Allen?
I do not have the opening statement. Oh, is that the due
Okay.
to the coronavirus?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Due to the novel coronavirus pandemic, this PPIC meeting is being electronically held via GoToMeeting pursuant to ordinance number 2020-102. Each commissioner will be attending the meeting electronically.
Okay. All right. So we'll do a roll call vote. A roll call, I'm sorry. Ms. Allen,
Present.
Ms. Bethia,
Here.
Ms. McSwain, Ms. McSwain, I think you're muted. Okay, we'll come back. I believe Ms. McSwain is on. I believe she's muted. Mr. Parr,
Here.
Ms. Pena,
Present.
and Ms. Rogers Garner. Ms. Rogers Garner.
Present. I was muted. I apologize.
That's all right. Thank you. Ms. McSwain.
Present.
Thank you. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, the minutes were emailed out to the commissioners. If there are no changes to the commissioners, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from April 27th, 2021.
This is Arnett. I move that the minutes from April 27, 2021 be accepted as written. Oh, actually, Madam Chair, I found an error on the minutes where it said that Ms. Sarah Rogers Garner was appointed to chairperson instead of Ms. Allen, where it says action right at the top.
Yes. Give me one
So
second. Correct.
So I so move that the minutes from April 27, 2021 be accepted with that correction.
I second with the appropriate corrections. This is Ms. Garner.
Okay. All right. Any discussion of the motion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethia,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Ms. Pena,
Yes.
Ms. Rogers Garner.
Yes.
All right, motion carries with that amendment.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the financial report by Ms. Patty Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to go over the highlights of the financial statements that were in your package. The statement of net position is on the screen now, which is the equivalent of a balance sheet. And they're at the end of April, the PPIC had $1,071,173 at Atlantic Union Bank. It also owns 2 properties at Burton Point, which is shown there at the original cost. And we owe a small amount to the city. And if you can scroll on down, please, or if there's a way I can scroll down, you'll see that the unrestricted net position is $1,505,945. If you could scroll to the statement of revenues and expenses, as of the end of April, $5,654 in industrial revenue bond fees have been collected, and you had contractual services and economic development expenses totaling $16,080, operating loss of $10,426, investment income of $864, so a change in net position of $9,562, and back to your net position at the end of the period at $1,505,945. The next chart is a budget to actual with detail, and there's a lot of lines that have not had any activity yet, such as the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund and the Port Host Community Grant. We're showing those as both revenues and outgoing expenditures, and those just have not matured yet. So those have not happened. So you've just got the detail there, and that is a recap of your financials. And if there's any questions, either now or at any time that you have, don't hesitate to ask.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the business development, the budget was 4,500 and
Right.
actual year to date is 6,000.
Right.
Um,
Mr. Moore, can you speak to that, please?
Yes, ma'am. So what we've had from a line item standpoint, we've had a couple of expenses that came out. We did have one special event that the PPIC, the previous board, was a part of. So from an expenses standpoint, we purchased a lock for the gate that has been put up at 3920 Burtons Point Road. You also had $350, which was for the PPIC's Virginia Maritime Association dues. The board is a member of the Virginia Maritime Association. Then there was a special event that was held in conjunction with the EPA. And as part of that event, the PPIC did provide a tent and other special events setups for that. And then as well, there was a video that was put together by our video team and multimedia team to the amount of $2,625.
what was
So
the
you take
video about?
the video was a video of the event, which was an EPA cleanup event associated with a property adjacent to the Elizabeth River near the foot of the Jordan Bridge.
This is Arnett. I have a question as well.
Yes.
The line item with contractual other, is that
Mhm.
percentage correct?
Are you asking what that is for?
No, ma'am. I was just asking is the percentage used correct? I see that is at 0.0%, but I do see that.
Yeah, that looks like a math error in the formula. So we'll get
Yes,
that
ma'am.
fixed.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Mhm.
Please explain indirect cost allocation.
Yes, ma'am. The city of Portsmouth bills the various boards and commissions, such as PPIC, for a share of the indirect costs that the city bears on its behalf, such as a share of the finance operations or other operations in the city. So it's based on a detailed cost allocation plan that's done each year.
When will we get a copy of that, or where could we get a copy of that?
Oh, well, we can send that to you. It's kind of big and it's multiple layers, but we can get that.
Thank you. I have one other question. Ground maintenance. Is the city providing the ground maintenance, or are we contracted to a company for ground maintenance?
You are contracted to a company. It's a small minority business um, that has the annual services contract. So, and again, you have one site, two, but one that really needs any type of maintenance.
Does anyone have any further questions? The financial report does not require a vote, does it, Mr. Moore?
It does not.
Okay, moving on to old business, board training, the Virginia Industrial Development Authority. Mr. Moore.
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. The board, typically when you have new board members, they go through a training that is through the Virginia Industrial Development Authority. Typically that training is, if I'm not mistaken, in like Roanoke or Christiansburg. The last training due to COVID was done back in November of 2020. Typically there is a training in the spring. There has not been one this year. We have reached out to the company. As of right now, they do not have any scheduled trainings at this point. Again, I think with everything opening up, that could change for the fall, but right now that is not happening. So I think the board has asked if there's an opportunity to have maybe some other types of trainings, and we're still reviewing that to see who else does that type of training. Again, it is an actual training, but then there's also an opportunity for you all to network with other boards and commissions throughout the state. So again, right now we're just in a wait and see type of mode. I think again, with everything opening up, potentially there will be opportunities, but right now that's on hold.
I know, this is Miss Garner. I know Miss Allen asked about potentially meeting with other boards from other cities. Is that a possibility?
So we're still reaching out to the other boards to see. We haven't done that. But I mean, we haven't done that before. But we can certainly reach out and see what Norfolk and Chesapeake and Virginia Beach would like to do. So I'm reaching out to my colleagues out there to see how they would like to handle that. Certainly they have different meeting times. For example, Chesapeake is in the afternoon. There's not really a Chesapeake Port Authority, I believe, anymore. So they would have the EDA. So reviewing to see if there's an opportunity to do that or a desire to do that.
Hi, quick question. Could we, since we have the Portsmouth at Work Center open, that'd be a wonderful opportunity to invite some of our fellow colleagues over to not only network there, but maybe also show off the Portsmouth at Work Center.
Yeah, so I think once the plan is put in place for the city to open up, and again, feeling how comfortable people are as far as vaccinations and things. So we're reaching out to our colleagues and seeing. Reached out to Stephen Wright, who is the Director of Economic Development, to see if there's an opportunity, and I'm waiting for him to get back to me. That's in Chesapeake, for example. Jared Chalk is my colleague in Norfolk. So once we hear something back, we'll certainly let you know.
Mr. Moore, will there be any training opportunities to the Virginia Economic, the VEDP, rather than the VIDA?
So the VEDP is actually just the state organization. That's not an actual training program. That's actually just the name of the state organization, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. You may be speaking of VIDA, which is the Virginia Economic Developers Association. Potentially there's some training there, but they don't really do training either. I think the ultimate location for training would be IEDC. Or through EDI, Economic Development Institute. And that training is actually virtual right now. There's no in-person training, again, until everything opens up. Again, that's because these trainings are in various locations. Typically, EDI, for example, is in Atlanta, or it's in Charlotte, or it's in Detroit. But again, with everyone kind of still on a pandemic protocol, no one's really doing anything in person yet. So there may be some opportunities for virtual training, but again, that's going to be more direct. So for example, that training would be for business retention and expansion training. So it teaches you the theory behind business retention and expansion, or business attraction, things of that nature. So we can certainly provide a list of the trainings that are out there. And should you all do so, there's a line item in your budget for training.
Yeah, I think that would be something we'd like to pursue. I just know in the news, we had the largest container ship to ever visit the East Coast come to Portsmouth. So I just want to make sure that myself and the rest of the commissioners can really speak and put our best foot forward here.
Yeah, so I would say we'll get you a list of trainings. We'll get you the link to the site. You all can look at it. I don't know the relation to that, but I think, again, there's a list of a number of trainings that you can partake in. So we'll get that link to you, and then you can decide how you want to proceed.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions in regards to older business? Hearing none. New business, the FY22 budget. Our treasurer, Amira Bethea, will be presenting.
I am ready if everyone is. And if y'all can just bear with me, like this is new to all of us. So I am going to go by my notes that I took when we went over the budget with Mr. Moore and a few other people. So I may ask for assistance if it's something that I'm still not familiar with. So everyone just please bear with me.
Absolutely. Mr. Moore will be giving assistance when you ask.
Yes.
Okay, so you just want me to, Mr. Moore, with the proper way, just to hit every line item and just explain what it is. And if anyone has any questions, they'll just jump in.
Yes, ma'am. That's the best way to do
Okay.
it.
All right. So the first thing is, as you all can see, if you have the budget pulled up, is the land sales. Right now, I believe that we touched over this briefly this morning, but we have two currently, if I'm correct. One that currently uses the ground maintenance that we discussed, and then we have another one. That's correct, Mr. Moore?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The second one is the industrial revenue bond fees. Right now, is two bonds that stay the same, and then the collector on that is to Judas. What was it again, Mr. Moore?
Say that one more time for me.
We have two bonds that remain the same, correct? They never change?
Yes, we have two industrial bonds that you are receiving fees from, and at this point, the amount is right around about $4,500. So we budgeted that $4,500 amount.
Okay. The third one is the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund, which we talked briefly in the last meeting and that we had. And this Opportunity Fund is paid out. There's no rollover, and it's paid out when the completion of the building. I'm correct with saying that, Mr. Moore? I'm gonna say that a lot, you guys, because I want to make sure I'm providing the correct information.
That's not a problem. Yes. So what you have is the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund. That line item is because, again, the PPIC was the catalyst for a project, the Lineage / Preferred Freezer project, and that project received from the state an amount of $180,000 in the form of the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund. PPIC is a pass-through for that fund. So this money comes in from the state to the PPIC when they reach the certain thresholds and milestones that they need to reach. That money will go out. We anticipate that is why right now on your budget, 180,000 was for FY21, FY22. There is no money there. We anticipate that will go out at the later this year. As a matter of fact, they should be finishing up here very soon as far as construction is concerned. So we see that going out. There is, you will see later, a match for the fund, because as part of this state organization or state, as part of the state organization's requirement, there has to be a match of the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund. The PPIC did put up that match of $180,000, and it's paid out $60,000 every year over the next 3 years, as long as, again, they meet certain thresholds and milestones associated with job creation. So for this
Mr.
line
Moore,
here, yes,
this is Ms. Garner. I have a question. Is there
yes.
any way that the commissioners can get a copy of the contractual obligation when it, as it relates to matching those funds and what the thresholds are that the company has to actually meet in order to receive the funding?
Certainly, it should be in your book, but we can certainly get you that, and we can have that sent to you after this meeting.
Thank you.
I have a, and last meeting I asked about reaching out to them to find out the percentage of potential jobs for Portsmouth residents.
Mhm. Yes. So again, they're still in the throes of building this facility. They have not started hiring yet, but there is no requirement. There is a commitment by them to hire local and hire Portsmouth folks, but there's no set percentage.
Well, and I understand that they are still building, and while they're still building, did you have a conversation from after our last meeting with them that that's something that we really want to strongly advocate for
Mhm.
Portsmouth
Yes, ma'am.
residents receiving those jobs, and what are the plans for them to make sure that we have enough people trained or whatever needs to be done for them to meet the job market for those jobs?
Yes, ma'am. So we reached out to them and again had that conversation. Again, where we are is, we put the effort forward and let them know about the Portsmouth at Work. So certainly as they get to the type of jobs they are looking to hire and the certifications necessary, we'd like for that to go through as best as possible to help them go through the Portsmouth at Work center, as you discussed earlier. And again, we're still having those conversations, but there's nothing at this point that says specifically, hey, they're going to hire 30% of those individuals from Portsmouth. There is a desire to hire local, and that's going to put their best foot forward for that. So we're still having those discussions, but again, nothing. I wish I could tell you there was something concrete, but there's not.
Do we know when their estimated completion of building and when they're starting to hire is going to be taking place?
So I believe they're putting together everything now to put together a job fair to start filling those jobs. The last thing they had to do was put in a water meter, which they're doing as we speak. And that I think was the final piece, and they anticipate opening later this summer. So as we get more updates, we will let you all know.
Just a thought, if they're planning on opening up this summer, then they would already know what types of jobs that they already need. So we'll be behind the 8 ball if we're not already training our people now for the jobs that are going to be opening up the end of this around summertime.
Right. So like I said, we're having those conversations now. Again, I still have any more definite details for you.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is the Port Host Community Grant. That's a carryover from the Wild Duck Lane. I believe that we were told it's on the second phase, and that happens in the fiscal year of 2022. Is that correct, Mr. Moore?
Yes, what you have is there are actually two grants. There are two Port Host community grants. One is for Wild Duck Lane, and then there's also another one for 3599 Progressive Avenue. The 500,000 that you see right now in 21 is for the Wild Duck Lane. For 22 is what you will see for you will receive for 3599 Progressive Avenue. We have not received that monies as of yet. Again, you all are the pass through for that program. So you'll see it come in, then you'll see it go out. When you get further down in the budget, you will see a line for One Wild Duck Lane that has 500,000 for 21, nothing for 22. On the flip side, you'll have also a line that says 3599 Progressive Avenue, which is the second half, Progress Avenue, I'm sorry, which is the second half of BASF. That is zero right now, but we'll have 500,000 because again, we anticipate that money coming in from the state.
Thank you. The next one is miscellaneous revenue. If you can explain this, Mr. Moore, more, because I didn't have much notes for this line item. What would fall under miscellaneous revenue?
So if there was anything associated with any additional some types of fees or bonds you all may have done, also if there was maybe another property or another transaction that was done where you all received some money off of it, it would go into this line. There hasn't been anything like that, and I think that really was put in a few years ago. If there was anything received, if someone maybe dedicated some money or offered some money to the PPIC to assist with their development, which I think was like that $500. That's it. And again, this was put in several years ago. You all haven't had any miscellaneous revenue over the last several years.
Okay, so the next is the cost of land sold right now that is blank. So this is mainly property that we incur. The contractual auditing is just basically what it states. Auditing that we need to take place of any property or anything like that. Is there anything else that we need to touch on, Mr. Moore, when it comes to that?
No, that's a fee that is paid to the firm that conducts the audit on behalf of the PPIC.
Okay, great. The next one is the contractual legal. So that would be any legal services that we may need. And I believe that we pay out a fee for the legal services as well, even if we're not utilizing it, correct?
So what you have is, yes, there is and Jeff Miller is on the line as well. But Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm making sure I'm not missing anything. But that contractual legal is essentially the fee associated with the services that the legal department here in the city conducts on behalf of PPIC as their legal representative. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir, Robert. That's correct. It's a $10,000 annual transferred over to the city attorney office budget, and in return, the city attorney's office provides representation that PPIC requires.
Okay, great. So the next one is the contractual other. What would fall under this, Mr. Moore? Because I didn't have any notes. I think that this was something that wasn't really discussed. It's something that was placed
Yes.
in the budget.
So the contractual other is essentially if there were any other contractual services that needed to be done. So for example, what you heard me speak of earlier from the business development standpoint, a lock that was acquired for your fence that is on the property. So the fence would be paid out of a contractual other, for example. So if there's some type of contractual services that's needed, whether it's for the property or if PPIC wanted to hire a consultant, things of that nature, that's what you utilize that for.
Okay, so the indirect cost allocation, we went over this briefly when the chair was asking a question regarding that on the financials that we went over. So that's mainly like allocations, processing of payments, things of that nature. The bank service fees are like wire fees, and as you all know, we do bank with Atlantic Union. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I have down on the notes. So that would be like wire fees and things like that. Business development falls under like staffing, sponsorships, and marketing. Is there anything that I missed when it comes to the business development portion?
No, ma'am. So again, as I stated, for example, when we looked at the breakdown, and you paid the fee, and I'm looking at my notes here, you paid the association fee for the Virginia Maritime Association. So your not sponsorship, but your membership to the VMA, as we call it, is $350 as a PPIC. And then other things such as if there's an event and you all have a video that commemorates that event, so we can make sure we have additional footage for the end of the year video that we do every year. That those types of items come out of that, as along with anything that staff may need, will come to you all and ask for that before we utilize it.
Okay, great. The next one is the local incentive grant, and that is as far as the funding, 300,000 over the 5 years. That is the PER properties, and like Mr. Moore explains, these are the grants that we were referring to in the beginning of us going over the budget that he was explaining with the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund and also the Port Host Community Grant. Is there anything else that I would need to add with that?
There's one thing. The PER properties is slightly different. There is a grant that was provided by PPIC several years ago, in the amount of $300,000, and it's paid out over 5 years. So that grant has not that project has not come to fruition yet. And from a legal standpoint, we are still looking at to how long this has to stay on the books. But that $60,000 is the first payment. Again, should they reach certain thresholds, and we can send you that agreement as well, so you have that in your notes and your documents. But right now, that is still on the books. So that is $60,000 that will go out at some point for PER properties. That is associated with a granary that they were looking to build or are looking to build in Portsmouth that has not been built yet. But the plan is still to build that. They have to go through some environmental checks on the site, things of that nature. But that's what that 60,000 is. The 180,000 is again the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund in association with Lineage Logistics. The next 60,000 that you see on there is the local match, which is the PPIC match for the Lineage Logistics project. Again, $500,000 for One Wild Duck Lane, which is former Cogentrix. That came in. We see that going out here soon, but you will also receive coming in another 500,000 for Progress Avenue, which again is the second half of BASF. So that's kind of that in a nutshell.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining that. And the next one is insurance. So that would be the insurance of properties. Do we know who the insurance carrier is for the properties that are insured?
That should be, I believe that's Town Insurance through Town Bank.
Okay. Okay. And then the other ones are, I would say, kind of self-explanatory as far as the meetings, travel, training. We've kind of touched on this. So things like as soon as we receive the booklet that shows us what trainings are available to us, and if we wanted to, get some extra training with those, that will fall under that. As far as travel expenses, travel would be included with those trainings if one of us had to go, out of state for travel. And I know that one that you have yearly, you stated that will fall under the travel as well. So we want to make sure we have that to the side to be able to, get the adequate training that we may need. Now the second portion here, well, under other expenses, that would be if there were like any additional things to cover if we were to go over the training budget we have to decide, or what will fall under their other expenses, Mr. Moore?
So again, this is another, I think when as different boards have put together different budgets, folks have tried to have catch-alls for everything. But other expenses would be, I think we try to capture that as much as we can, because I think if you notice, you got a miscellaneous and other expenses for both expenses. So it's really more of just a catch-all line item, to be honest with you. I think different boards have tried to do different things.
Okay, got it. So the next section would be regarding the development of properties and properties held. So we went over like the contractual legal, the demolition, the self-explanatory, the contractual survey and appraisals, the ground maintenance we touched in the beginning, which we stated there are 2 sites. The company is a small business that takes care of the one site that does the maintenance that we have, and then also utilities that would need to be covered with the property as well. So do you think there's anything else that I need to touch on, Mr. Moore?
Nope, I think that's it. The income realized, the investment income realized is really the interest that you're receiving on your bank account. We moved the money from the board voted to move the money from Town Bank to Atlantic Union, and you can see the fruits of that labor, if you will, associated with the interest you're receiving on your money. So at this point, that's the budget, captured very well by Ms. Bethune.
Thank you. I did better than I thought I was. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Mr. Moore, for being there.
No problem.
Great job.
Thank you.
Any questions for anyone? I know Ms. Bethea had to jump off. Are you still jumping off, Amira?
No, I have like 20 more minutes, so I'm good to go right now.
Okay. Okay, so moving on.
So Chair, we would need to vote to accept the budget. Approve and accept the budget. Gotcha.
There are no questions regarding the FY22 budget. I need a motion for approval of the budget.
Motion to approve. This is Amira.
Second.
Was that Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Any discussion of the motion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethea,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Ms. Pena,
Yes.
and Ms. Rogers Garner.
Yes.
All right, motion carries and the FY22 budget is approved.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Moore, Portsmouth at Work opening. I was present.
Yes, so let me first say thank you to everyone that attended. If you are not aware, back on May 14th, which was last Friday or Friday before last, I apologize. We did open the Portsmouth at Work Center. And it was a well-attended event. It was actually pretty much all day. From 10 to 12 was the ribbon cutting. From 12 to 2 was the actual open house. We had a steady flow of individuals come through. And we've had some great success from a number standpoint. So last week, this is through Friday, we had 142 individuals contact us or come visit us. We had 45 new registrants and registrations. We had 25 individuals sign up for our entrepreneurship program. We've had 12 people total sign up for our HRT bus driver program. And then we've had another 38 inquiries from different employers and other individuals providing training. So we got off to a great start. Very excited about this. And again, as the mayor stated, this will be a game changer for us when it comes to the region and how we support our small businesses here as well as the businesses throughout the region. So just wanted to say thank you to you all for attending, and we're looking forward to making this a great success.
Wonderful. Can you share with the public that'll be watching some of the programs that you currently have going on at Portsmouth at Work?
So yes, we have a number of different programs. Certainly, as I just discussed, we have the HRT bus driver program where you actually end up with your CDL license and will have a job at the end. And let me back up and say that all of these are not just trainings; these are career pathways to going from training to a job. And at this point, we've had over 20% of the folks that have contacted us have led to and are hired, have been hired to a job. So we're very excited about that. But the HRT program is a great way, again, to earn your CDL license and be able to drive for HRT. We also have the Smart Start Entrepreneurship program, which focuses on small minority businesses and basically teaches you through a boot camp how to start a business with less than $1,000. And the great thing about that is you go through that boot camp and then you end up with a loan ready business plan at the end. And we're also working with the EDA to potentially provide that $1,000 from a funding standpoint. We also have different trainings, whether you are kind of transitioning back into the workforce from a standpoint, for our more mature citizens out there. So everything from digital learning, so you get brushed up on Microsoft and that certification, PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheets, things of that nature. We also have certifications to work from home. Certifications for call centers, things of that nature. The great thing about all of these is that these are free to Portsmouth citizens, thanks to our EDA and funding through our CDBG program here at the city. So we're very excited about this. And again, you can't turn down free. So.
Wonderful. And for those who will be watching this video, we encourage people to go down to Portsmouth at Work, free training. We want to make sure that if you're looking for a career, this is an opportunity that's free to you. So thank you, Mr. Moore. Yeah, additional questions in regards to Portsmouth at Work? Hearing state of Portsmouth.
So I think that's my cue. Miss Allen, I think you're breaking up a little bit there. But this morning, let me go back to a couple meetings ago. we talked about having a retreat, a joint retreat potentially with the EDA and later this summer, but there was a desire by this board to have the retreat earlier. So in looking at the true focus of PPIC, which again talks about port and industrial uses, we thought it was only fitting that we reached out to our colleague, one of our colleagues in the commercial real estate realm, and reach out to someone who I really think is an expert and is the expert in Hampton Roads with regards to commercial real estate when it comes to industrial development, and that's Mr. Jeff Poston. Mr. Poston is with Tallheimer / Cushman Wakefield, and he's here this morning to give you an update on really the kind of state of the Portsmouth market when it comes to industrial and port-related uses and properties. And Jeff and I go way back. I think Jeff and I go back a good 10 years, maybe all the way back to when I was in Chesapeake. And Jeff has been a great resource for us. Jeff represents a few properties here in Portsmouth with regards to industrial properties. But he really is, he heads up the Tallheimer Hampton Roads Industrial Group. And again, Jeff has done over 210 transactions, totaling more than 4.1 million square feet. And that's valued at $155 million. So Jeff really understands the industrial market and knows what's going on. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Jeff Poston.
And I
All right.
apologize
Thanks, Rob.
before you start, Jeff, and I do apologize. This is Amira. I do have to step away, but I will review the video and everything that is discussed after this. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you, Robert, very much. I appreciate it. And thank you, Portsmouth PPIC. I'm excited to be here and talk with you guys. And yeah, 10 years, Robert, we didn't have as much gray hair as we do now. I got it all in my beard too when I let it grow out. But anyways, yes. So again, thank you so much. It's awesome to be here and talk to you guys. I love industrial. I think it's, just a super exciting property type, and obviously it creates jobs, which is just great to see and be involved with, as I know you guys are very interested in. The industrial market last year, as we went into COVID in March, everything was on pause. That was industrial, that was the office sector, retail. And maybe 2 months after everything really kind of slowed down and people didn't know what was going on, things started to slowly pick back up. And through the summer of 2020, the demand that we saw was just off the charts. I mean, we were stuff is selling, multiple offers before it hits the market. Almost not quite to the extent the residential market is right now, but it's definitely tons of demand, and mostly on the buy side. The tenants and leasing hasn't been as strong. Historically, we're pretty evenly balanced, 50-50. But last year, with the stimulus the federal government provided, stimulus that you guys were providing, and low interest rates was driving a lot of buyer demand. And so as heading into COVID, we were already at historically low vacancy rates. And coming out of COVID, we're even lower than that. And if you could go to the next slide, please. Just really quickly cover the Hampton Roads market. Obviously, as a region, we're out of town prospects, even, as close as Richmond or California or wherever, they see us as Hampton Roads. And then once we're engaging with these prospects and we dig down into their requirements, then we can really nail into where they want to be in the region. And we'll talk about some of the attributes Portsmouth offers that kind of sets you guys apart. But our total market for industrial product, and that's from 5,000 square feet and up, we don't really track below 5,000 square feet. We're at just over 100 million square feet of product. Our historical vacancy rates are 6 to 7%. So that means at any given time, there's 6% of inventory that's available, that's being marketed or for sale or for lease. So we've been heading into COVID, we were right around 3.5%, which we were all like scratching our heads like, man, where are we going to put prospects? Well, today, as of today, Year to date, we're at 2.3%. That's really challenging because, you know, we're brokers or economic development or the port, they're working with prospects that want to be here, want to locate in the region, provide jobs, do business, do all the good things. But there's no product to put them in. So it's driving it. One sense it's good because it's driving values up. And for a long time, since the Great Recession, our values have been really stagnant. We hadn't seen a lot of growth in rental rates, not a lot of growth in underlying property values. And that creates issues in and of itself because there's a disconnect between values or return on investment and then being able to build new product. And that's kind of how we've gotten where we're at today, is we haven't had the values or the rent to be able to justify new construction. And so we're now seeing, as you can see there, annual rent growth, 6.1%. Our historical average again is maybe 3.5%, 4%. So we're really increasing significantly and playing catch up with the rest of the country. They had experienced a lot of this over the past couple of years, but we've got a great pipeline going. So under construction, you can see there for the whole region, we're 4.9 million square feet. Obviously, Amazon's 3.8 million square feet of that in one building. They have several other buildings they're working on, but we've got, this is the most we've ever had under construction at any given time since we've been tracking this data, and 96% of that is all build to suit stuff. So there's not a ton. It's cool to see a lot of new construction coming on. It's just not a lot of stuff that's going to be available. And the stuff that is coming available is getting spoken for pretty quickly. Yeah, and if you could go to the next slide, please. So drilling down on Portsmouth, I love those pictures there. I think that's, I'm sure Robert does too, and everybody here in Portsmouth. That's the Lineage Logistics Facility. That's really, really cool stuff for the port, for Portsmouth, for the region. But drilling down more specifically on Portsmouth, you guys are 5 million square feet of space. You're at a 1% vacancy rate. And as you'll see on the next slide, when we get there, that's 5 properties really that are existing today that are available. Yeah, so it's just crazy. It's unheard of. You know, I think one of the key properties that stands out to me there is 1200 Court Street, the old Massimo Zanetti building. They're still occupying that through the end of this year, but somebody will take that and hopefully backfill that with similar amount of jobs and corporate presence here in Portsmouth. If you could go back one slide, please. So again, you guys, net absorption, which I didn't talk about in the last slide, but we were at 570,000 over the past 12 months. That's doing really well for our market, especially considering how little space we have available. You guys are at 22,000 square feet, which that's just fine. It's kind of hard when you're at a 1% vacancy rate. There's not really anything to absorb, and so, you know, I wouldn't look too much into that one in this particular slide. The average asking rents, as you can see, we're going up 6%. Again, that's really, really, really good. The average asking rent is $7.21, below the average for the market. There's some things that play into that, but it's still a really healthy number, and we're getting up to be able to support new construction. One of the things about y'all's market, Portsmouth, you know, there are some bigger distribution facilities. You know, there's 3050, 3100 Elmhurst Lane. There's the interchange facility. There's this new facility here. But some of the other cities like Suffolk and Chesapeake have more big box developments, which, you know, is nice from a tax roll perspective, but it's also lends itself to a little bit more vacancy, a little bit more, you know, because it's like a big bomber comes in, but there's a lot of downtime in between that. You guys are servicing more of the local inhabitants, smaller businesses, which is vital and very important. So it's just one thing to keep in mind. And as we move forward, I think there's opportunities for you guys to maybe get some more opportunities to develop some larger buildings. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this just, again, kind of summarizes where we've been, where we're headed. You know, we've got last year, Amazon did 5 of the top 6 biggest deals in the market last year. But there's also other e-commerce groups that are out there doing deals. Lowe's has been out there, Home Depot doing deals, XPO Logistics, DoorDash, and it's really was fueled by COVID and people not going, you know, ordering online, doing groceries, stuff like that. But it's helped fuel further e-commerce development throughout the country. One thing is Kroger. Kroger's now they're gonna put up 20 different last mile robot operated, and there are employees too, but primarily robot operated pick and pull centers where they're basically, you order online, you have your grocery list put together for you and it's shipped out to you. And those are going to be like last mile depots. So it's almost like a Amazon Prime now, but strictly for groceries and, you know, whatever you can find at a grocery store, at a Kroger. So those kind of things are really starting to pop up. With COVID, you know, supply chain, it's talked about today still, all the bottlenecks and issues that we're facing. So a lot of groups, and we've seen some already, we're low on the totem pole for, you know, in the pecking order in terms of getting this supply chain diversification put out by the different companies, but we are starting to see it, and I expect we'll see more of it, which is the supply chain risk mitigation. So the idea is, rather than having one West Coast facility, one East Coast facility, and maybe you're pulling from the manufacturer in China or wherever, then it's, hey, we need 3 East Coast facilities, 1 Northeast, 1 Mid-Atlantic, 1 Southeast, 3 West Coast facility, you know, so it's going smaller, but it's creating a bigger footprint so that things can be diverted more easily. And the other one, which I didn't put in here, but is definitely, it's called safety inventory. And so companies are, you know, like the toilet paper crisis of 2020, that was, you know, they're looking to mitigate that, to prevent that from happening. So they're going to start holding 10% of their inventory as safety inventory. So they're going to increase their footprints from that perspective. And so again, this stuff is all across the country. Industrials, the darling of commercial real estate. So if you look at that little chart there, I love that chart. We're the 7th. This is the end of 2020. Those are the 10 tightest markets in the country. And there's some really, really big industrial markets on there: Nashville, New Jersey, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and we're 7th tightest. So we you know, that's 7th least available properties. And in terms of total under construction, we're 23rd at 4.9 million. So you would think, okay, tightest markets need to be building the most to be able to support demand. But again, we're 50th in average asking rents. So we drop way down. So we've got if you're looking at like Philadelphia, Orange County, Nashville, all those rents are way up there. So that's the runway that we have, is to continue to grow our rents through 2021 to be able to support new development. If you could go to the next slide, please. And this is my shameless plug, I guess, but just talking about some properties that are available. This is one that's right next to VIG. It's a Norfolk Southern owned property, 32 acres. We have 15.5 acres developable approximately. We're talking to 2 different potential developers that would do a long-term ground lease, and to put up a building. And if you go to the next slide, it shows a footprint of the building. But we'd love to see something like a distribution facility or a cold storage facility that can again create more jobs, but also help accommodate some of the demand that's out there. Another one, that I think so. And the reason I bring this up, and I don't like to promote my stuff specifically, but the idea is that there's not really a lot available. There's a stuff at BASF, at the BASF site on Progress Lane. There's Deepwater Terminal, which there's people talking on Deepwater Terminal. So there's very limited land. A lot of it's getting gobbled up. That's true for Suffolk. They have a lot more land available, but the prime sites are being gobbled up, and that's because we've got a lot of speculative developers that have taken notice of the Hampton Roads area, our port facilities, and they're saying, man, we really think that there's going to be a lot with the supply chain diversification, mitigation, risk mitigation, stuff like that. We need to be in those port markets. It's a great import market, but it's also quickly becoming an export market. So we've got to get in those locations. So there's a lot of competition from institutional developers and stuff like that. And if we could go to the next slide, I think that might be the last slide. So I put together a little SWOT, and this is a third person view. So this doesn't speak for everybody. This is just my thoughts as I was brainstorming, preparing for this meeting. And it's, so take it how you take it. But strengths: central Hampton Roads location, your infill, which is kind of like the big hot button these days. Being infill is closer to higher population density. So like the Amazons, they want a depot with as many rooftops around them as possible so they can do their quick deliveries in really quickly. You guys have the Virginia International Gateway, one of the most modern ports in the world. I mean, that is just a huge selling point. And being able to be in close proximity, the closer you can be to that site, the better. Obviously, you got your 1% vacancy rate. That tells a good story to investors, as well as rising rental rates is another great story. And then your labor availability, that's another one to look at. And then you have 2 Class 1 railroads. A lot of markets don't have 1 Class 1 railroad, let alone 2. So that's something to tout as well. Some of the weaknesses as I see them, when we're talking to prospects, and we're, typically more local prospects, there's a negative stigma associated with Portsmouth, right or wrong. Obviously, as commercial real estate brokers and economic development and port officials, we're all champions of the whole region, of every locality. There's pluses and minuses to everyone, but I hear it, and I figured I'd share that with you guys. That's what I hear at times, whether it's founded or not. And I think that that's maybe related to maybe some past leadership challenges, stuff like that. The tax rate, you're really not far off. It's something that's commented, you guys are the highest, but it's not, I don't think you're so far out of the range. Norfolk's only 5 cents less than you guys. So I don't, that's a weakness. I would say too, there's, you look at Cavalier Industrial Park in Chesapeake, super successful industrial park. There's no difference. I mean, you can't tell where the line is. There's Chesapeake and Portsmouth, but it's a very defined industrial park that does really well. I think there's Elmhurst Lane and Seaboard Court, and maybe over by the waterfront, there's some things as well. But I think maybe some branding or marketing may not hurt. Opportunities that I see would be, any existing undeveloped land. I know there's not much of that in Portsmouth. Redevelopment, maybe there's strip centers or, retail. I think we're definitely seeing a transformation in retail real estate. So maybe there's some opportunities for some good, well-located properties that could potentially look at redevelopment. And that's not to say, I think it gets talked about a lot, Amazon taking over a Kmart and making that into a new fulfillment center. Amazon can look at doing that, but the cost of real estate on their bottom line is like 5%. It's primarily transportation and labor that costs the most for them. They're a very unique animal. I've worked with some people to look at the Kmart concept of redeveloping an existing building into an industrial facility, and it costs a lot of money. And at the end of the day, you've still got some limiting factors like loading, access, and clear height, and then the cost to convert it. It almost makes more sense just to scrape it, build new, build something that's to modern standards, and have something that's got some longevity. Cold storage, obviously, you guys have seen it with Lineage, but that's that's due in part to proximity to VIG. The closer, the better. Threats to industrial success in y'all's market, changing economic conditions, that's the same for everybody. Rising construction costs, same for everybody. New developments in nearby localities, Suffolk has some come into market, Chesapeake. I think, eventually we will catch up and we'll get to a point where demand starts to slow and we've got these new developments in the pipeline. And so, you've got to be 18 months ahead of the game to really get going. So just keeping that pipeline active, you got to think long term and think way ahead of time. And if you could go to my last slide, please, or second to last. Oh, no, that's the last slide. So just really quickly, some recommendations as I see it that might serve you guys well is to take inventory of your existing land available that could be for industrial development or maybe redeveloped for industrial development. I'm sorry, rezoned for industrial development, inventory of redevelopment opportunities. And then keep in mind, today's tenants are moving at a faster pace than ever. So when site selectors or brokers are working for these companies, they're basically going through process of elimination. And so they want to find the site that's going to be ready the quickest. Generally, it's like, hey, 6 to 10 months. If you start getting into 12 months, it's getting to be a long time. They want it now. And so to do that, you've got to have a lot of the government processes buttoned up or well understood. If you can get to like site plan approval on a site, you're doing really well. Obviously, there's pad ready, which is going to be the quickest without having to build anything, but you've kind of committed to a site plan at that, or a building footprint at that point. And then for you guys, similar with the rest of the region, I see cold storage, importers, and e-commerce as kind of the big industries to follow. So I probably took too much time, but again, I love talking about industrial real estate. So my contact information is up there. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to chat and answer any questions now if you have time for it. Thank you very much.
Jeff, we appreciate that. We'll certainly send out the slides to the commissioners after the meeting. But certainly, as Jeff stated, he is open for any questions you all may have.
I have a question. This is Ms. Garner. Just your expert opinion, why do you think a company such as Amazon has not thought us out, Portsmouth, with them building, you have Norfolk, Suffolk, all of those areas have distribution centers now, or are building distribution centers?
Yeah, so I would tell you, if they could pick up that 3.8 million square footer and just put it, smack dab in the middle of Hampton Roads, they would do that. The problem that you run into is available land. Portsmouth, you know, there's really not anything really available that's going to fit their needs from a distribution perspective. So, you know, they want 24-foot minimum clear height, you know, at least 5 to 10 dock loading doors, 50 to up to 3.8 million square feet. So there's really nothing in Portsmouth today that can offer that, that's available. There are some opportunities that if they were available, I'm confident they would be very interested in going after. But again, as you've got 1% vacancy, it's just not out there. In the Massimo Zanetti building is a really great building, but that's tailored to a manufacturer, which we don't see quite as many. We just don't see the same demand on the manufacturing side, just like the rest of the country. It's just, you know, it's really based on labor, and labor is cheap overseas. So, so yeah, that's it. Now, if you were to put up a speculative building or try to do, you know, a more modern facility somewhere in Portsmouth, you know, I feel pretty good that Amazon or other groups like that would have interest, because again, you're infill, and so that's where these guys want to be.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Poston?
No question, but thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chair,
Next.
if I could, Chair, we would typically go in a closed meeting next. However, we have the representatives from the Port of Virginia on the call. They have another engagement, but certainly would like the opportunity to speak. So would ask if they could go ahead and present next before going into closed session.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Chris Gullickson, the representative from the Virginia Port Authority.
Well, thank you, PPIC commissioners. Thank you, Ms. Allen and Mr. Moore, for ceding my request to move up in the agenda. I did want to just provide a few remarks in respect to time. Won't go too long, but want to leave some time for questions and answers. Also, I do want to mention that Thomas Cross is also on the call. So if there are any local government affair questions, state government affair questions, Mr. Cross can also address those this morning. As it was mentioned by Mr. Barbaresi, we were fortunate enough to have the CMA CGM Marco Polo call on the Port of Virginia the past 2 days. That was the largest container ship to call the U.S. East Coast to this point. And we were very fortunate to have it call here in Virginia, and more importantly, at Virginia National Gateway, located in Portsmouth, Virginia. For those of you who had the chance, I personally feel like the real sight to be seen was yesterday afternoon. If you had the chance to be on the Western Freeway, maybe going between downtown and Churchland, you could see not only the Marco Polo, which is a 16,000 TEU ship, alongside or next to it was also the CMA CGM Theodore Roosevelt, which is about a 14,000 plus TEU ship. And why that's important, it really drives home the point that VIG, Virginia National Gateway, is recognized and seen to be one of the premier container handling facilities really on the East Coast or in the entire US. And yesterday we really proved ourselves, having some of the biggest ships working simultaneously and still providing what is some of the most efficient turn times you'll see anywhere at ports here in the US. And so customers like the Amazons, Walmart, Target, all these big retailers that have seen tremendous bumps and upticks in their volumes tied to the economic recovery are really enjoying the fruit of the investments made by the Commonwealth and the city of Portsmouth and the benefits of our strategic location here in the Mid-Atlantic. So Very exciting times at the Port of Virginia. Continue to see growth month over month. In fact, April was our busiest month ever as a port. We handled over 286,000 TEUs. Those are numbers, again, we've never experienced as a port. And so it's great to see those volumes. And sometimes you can imagine when you have an uptick in business, that can also bring congestion or hiccups. And I can tell you, we are just operating at a really efficient, effective rate and level at this minute. So kudos to our operation and the whole team here. It's also exciting to see the level of activity we're seeing in the economic development space. Really enjoyed Jeff's remarks and had a really great fortune of working with Jeff over the years, as Robert has, on a number of transactions here in Hampton Roads. But it is obviously a situation where we are constrained on the supply side with available space. So it's great to see product coming out of the ground. Though the sites maybe aren't as large as other sites within the market, it's great to see Portsmouth with potential sites for future development. And I know there are a lot of different opportunities in the market looking at those options for those close-in locations to VIG and PMT respectfully. So I think it's exciting times, and I think we're going to be, as economic developers, Robert, myself, and his team, and throughout the state and region, very busy for many months to come as companies do look to reconfigure their supply chains and also address some of those glaring concerns that have been, made so obvious during COVID, with shortages from toilet paper being the one I think Jeff mentioned, but you think of other components, and obviously, for instance, like what the automotive industry is facing in the moment with chip shortages. I think there's a variety of sort of pain points out there, and we'll see companies looking to locate in and around ports to sort of develop those, we'll call safety stocks. And Virginia really provides that full East Coast reach to both Southeast and Northeast markets. So again, I think it's an optimistic time for economic development. And it's a great time for the city of Portsmouth having product near completion and product coming on the market. So with that, I'll leave it and open to any questions, or if Mr. Cross had any remarks, happy to hand it to him as well. Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you,
I
sir.
did want to bring up again, Chris, if we could arrange the site visit. I know the governor's been lifting restrictions left and right, and I think the board would be really motivated to get a closer look.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a great idea. I think maybe offline, Robert and I can look at some calendars as we get into the summer months. But if okay with you all, maybe we come back as a follow-up action item for the next PPIC meeting, and we'll have dates. Maybe not to share it, because we'll have to sort of do it in, I believe, groups of 2, if that's correct, Mr. Moore, to grant quorum. But maybe we will have some dates around to the PPIC so that we can get that done this summer.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Everyone have a great day.
You too.
You do the same.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Next up, we'll be going into closed session.
Okay, so I have the statement to read. I move to go into a closed electronic meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsections 2.2-3708.2 and 2.2-3711A.3 and City Council Ordinance 2020-102 for the purpose of discussing the acquisitions and disposition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding 3920-3930 Burton's Point Road and strategic acquisitions.
An attendee in listen only.
A second, Burnett McSwain.
Any discussion of the motion?
No.
Okay, Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Bethia, I think she left. Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Ms. Pena,
Yes.
and Ms. Rogers Garner.
Yes.
Rogers Garner can read us back into open session.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the certification of closed meeting made pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712D. I hereby move that each commissioner certify that to the best of his or her knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meetings requirement under Virginia Freedom of Information, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
I need a second.
Second.
Ms. Allen. All right, discussion of the motion. Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Parr,
Yes.
Pena,
Yes.
and Ms. Rogers Garner.
Yes.
All right, so you are in open session. You are in open session.
Okay, welcome back to the open session. Great information from our closed session. And we are now at items submitted by commissioners. Any of our commissions or commissioners wish to submit items? Okay, I don't know of any items, commissioners. I'd like to have our next meeting will be June 22nd. I need a motion for adjournment.
This is Ms. Rogers Garner. I make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you so much. Do we need to vote on that? Going to vote on that? Okay,
No, ma'am.
we are good to adjourn. Thank you so much, Mr. Moore and the staff and everyone involved for this very informative meeting. Great job, and I look to hear from you soon and see you again. Hopefully, I'm prayerfully hoping that our next meeting is in person.
All right, thank you.
Everybody have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
Take care.
You do the same.
Bye-bye.
Bye.